Hey guys, this is the Justice for All podcast with your hosts Randall and Gage. Our special guest, Caleb Thomas, is here, and we're having a pretty stimulating conversation about abortion today. Go back to parts 1 and 2 to be a part of that. But Gage just brought up a good point before our break. And Gage, would you like to reiterate what you were saying to us?
Yeah, it was brought up the last episode about pulling the plug whenever you're older and doctor assisted suicide and preserving life and stuff. So I just wanted to know your guys' opinions on that. As far as if the patient chooses to die, if they're hooked up to a machine, like some of Dr. Kevorkian's patients did back in the 90s, I believe. And he got charged with murder after that. And do you think that, if it's the patient's choice to die because they have a terminal illness or whatever, and they're, just on life support, do you think it's okay for them to choose to pull the plug? And if so, do you think the doctor should be, convicted of murder?
I don't think you should be convicted of murder. No, I think that should be totally fine in my opinion. Because if you're wanting it's your life. If you're wanting to end it, it's definitely selfish, but to an extent, let's say you definitely have a terminal illness or something like that. Rather, let's say you're just depressed or something. Anyways, so from there, doctor assisted, I think that would be in my opinion, completely okay. Especially if there's some sort of situation, you got some crazy rare cancer in a lot of pain. I feel like it's your choice, but if you're religious, that's up for you to take it up with God, and if you're not, man, it's on you.
So let me. With this, you're saying that there's been confirmation by the patients to say go ahead and pull the plug previously, or is this just something that the doctors execute?
Yeah, there's confirmation by the patient.
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a coherent decision that was made. Now, if it's something like mental and the dude isn't doing well mentally, maybe that's a different thing. But for the most part, I don't think pulling the plug on those kind of things really. I don't think that happens a lot. No, I don't think it's murder. I think it's definitely something that's justifiable. I think it's murder. I think it's wrong. But I think if it's asked for, I don't think that's selfish at all. I definitely don't think somebody should be, especially if, like I said, if it was okay, do this, please. If this happens, do this. I think that's fine. I don't think the doctor should be penalized or anything. Now what was said earlier is is Jesus going to be too happy or whatever? No, probably not. But the thing is, I think that it's not. I think it's definitely something that I think it's going to probably go against that. But I think it's honestly more humane to do something like that, especially if it was asked for you to do that. Now, we can go the other way. Now, if the doctor just did it just to do it, I think that's really messed up. I think that's obviously a murder. I think he should be convicted.
Yeah.
However, I think if it was asked, I think it'd be pretty hard to deal with. To deal with not doing that after that. I think it'd be harder to deal with. Oh man, he really wants out of this, and here I could do it, but. Yeah. I'm letting my feelings or whatever get
in the way. And my personal opinion on it would be, I see it as okay, in that instance, because I know if I was hooked up to a machine and just kept alive by that, you'd be living a miserable life, basically.
Yeah.
And you'd be in so much pain that, I would want to die by that point.
Right.
But also, it would be hard to make legal because you'd have to list so many different conditions that falls under. Because if you give doctors that power, then, who's to say that someone won't come in that has a mental illness like you were talking about saying, oh, I'm so depressed, I just want to die, just end it now, whatever.
And then they give you a little magic pill and there you go.
Yeah.
So that's a good point,
But I don't think that should be legal.
Yeah, I think here's what something like this could happen. I would say at the patient's discretion. Have a lawyer present. You're going to have to get, a lawyer present. I think a third party definitely. It has to be an unbiased party in that case, I'd say. So, obviously we're going to have a coordination of law. I think in that case you're going to have to include a third party and maybe get it in writing as well. I would say here's what the law would say. There has to be a third party present and willing to sign off that, X, Y, and Z condition that the patient gave me said it was okay to do this. That's all the law has to say. In practice, get it in writing between everybody that was there. and then have it clearly stated of what's going on and why are they pulling the plug. I think that's exactly what would have to happen. I think you'd minimize it then, even if you had like a representative from like 2 representatives from the hospital, you and your buddy, and then maybe a third, even if something like that, the more merrier in that case.
So back to the topic of abortion then. Yeah. One question that I would have for you guys, since Randall, you don't support abortion in your own life, but, sure, you support it, like, if other people want to do it. And then Caleb, you support it in certain circumstances. One, I would ask, if the person is going to have an abortion, should they have to pay for it, or should it be free?
No, they should pay for it themselves.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't think they're, again, I'm a firm believer that I don't think the people should pay for anything that anybody else is responsible for. I think this is your choice, and if you want to have the abortion, you have to pay for it. Just like if you're going to be a trans person, you should have to pay for that too. Those are all things I support. Now, something that I would be willing to pay for, like we were mentioning earlier, is the contraceptives thing, and I think that'd be a cheaper route. Now, the details, as we were hashing out earlier, might be a little foggy. Maybe we can figure those out later. But, I'd be much more inclined to do something like that rather than even an abortion. But, no, I don't think it should be paid for by other people.
And 2, I was going to ask, we basically all agreed that late-term abortions aren't okay in that instance. If they're 8 months, 9 months, the baby's viable, at that point, like around 32 weeks, it can live on its own. And so do you think that there should be, like, criminal punishments if they do choose to have an abortion at that point?
I think so.
Well, I think there should be criminal punishments for any abortion, but I'm just kidding. That's a little too bad. No, that's a little too much for me. But anyway, no, that's a good point, man. I mean, if we had it like how Hillary Clinton wanted it, that obviously wouldn't be the case. But yeah, that's a good point. If society allows late-term abortions like that, I would say no. Obviously not. Because, again, if you're going to have a criminal thing, who's to fault there? Is it the mom's fault, or is it the person actually performing an abortion? And if it's like the doctor's responsibility, then there'd be no abortions, correct? Because fuck that. They don't want to go to fucking prison, And if it's the mom's fault, I think they'd definitely be discouraged. So if anything, if that happened, I think you'd see actually a decrease in abortions, definitely late-term. But then again, I don't know how common late-term abortions is. I think most of them are usually early. So I think a better question would be, should, we'll say this. We'll say this. We think that abortions are wrong or whatever, right? Should any abortion be a criminal offense? If it's, if we're gonna, we'll expand it all. What do you guys? I mean.
Can you repeat that? You broke up a little bit. Sorry.
Let's. Well, first of all, we'll put that one on hold. What do you think about that first, Gage? Answer late-term abortions. Do you think that somebody should go to jail?
Yeah. I mean, if it's in the case that I said, like, if it's like 32 weeks and the baby's viable, then yes.
Okay. And then who's to fault?
I would say the mother.
Okay. Mom. You would say mom too?
Mom, yeah. Or the father, I guess, if he also agrees. But
yeah, whichever. Yeah. The parents. I don't think it should be on the doctors.
With the guy's pressure, or parents, or somebody. But at the same time, it's a hard question. I agree about.
Weeks, yeah, because then the doctors shouldn't be offering those services either if they're illegal.
Let me ask this then. Well, that's true. There are shady doctors. I mean, you go say you have a disorder right now, they give you some Xanax, so I'm sure they'd be inclined to, if they didn't caught. But here's my point. Why isn't it to fault the doctors? I'm just curious to say that. If why are the parents the sole responsibility for that?
Well, I think it is the doctor's fault too in that instance. If it's that late in, if it's deemed illegal by society, then yes, I believe. Because the doctors wouldn't be able to do that.
Right, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, legally speaking, you're saying that this wouldn't even be a situation if the doctors knew the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so okay, we'll do that exact same scenario, but with all abortion. What would you say?
No, I don't.
What would you say? Let's make it more interesting. We'll say murder is illegal, an abortion is murder, but it's also a gray area legally. What would you say then? Like, because we're going to say like it's a gray area legally, being that you can have an abortion up to like 4 weeks, but they don't have to know that, right? So let's go there. It's a gray area, but it's illegal. What would you guys say? Like, what the same exact circumstances, but those additional things. Who's to fault? Is just someone go to jail? What do you guys think?
If that was the case, I feel like that'd have a lot of people really like, parents bucking up and taking care of their kids because they'd have no other choice, And so from there, I feel like it honestly might be a good thing, but at the same time, because there'd be a lot of people actually stepping up because they wouldn't want to go to jail.
Yeah. Or even like not even getting pregnant. Like they probably go more out of their way.
Exactly.
Sure.
A lot more probably. Using more using protection, contraceptives, being on the pill, getting the, implant or whatever, just different little things like that. But at the same time, there should be more for the guys as well. I don't think, how does it go for, let's say getting a vasectomy? Can't you not get a vasectomy until you're about 30? Unless, you really have to. What are the laws on that? I'm honestly.
I don't know about that.
Okay. You can't. I know you can't get your tubes tied until you're 25.
What
if
about,
you're not married, don't have kids?
Yeah. Can you, if you're Jewish, get a vasectomy sooner, based on religion? I don't know honestly. About that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But I feel like I remember I always wanted to get a vasectomy at a young age just in case I didn't have another scare and so from there. I got one son. I didn't want an abortion, so I never got one. But at the same time, I was very nervous about the whole situation. So I feel like, let's say I have one, I want to get my fucking, ball snipped.
Yeah,
I don't want to be put in that situation. And so from there, it's kind of, it's like it's a gray area. And so.
Well, what about you, Gage? As far as the legal thing we're talking about?
If it's early, I don't think that you can charge people criminally like that. I could definitely see paying a fine or something, but with all the contraceptives that we have, there's still that 1% chance or whatever that you get pregnant. So even if people are taking it every day, and it's almost impossible to take it every day at the exact same time because, something comes up, you might miss something, you might oversleep, whatever. So I don't think you can charge people criminally for early term. I definitely think you can for late term.
Sure. That's interesting. Again, man, that's just so weird to me just because, we're saying that, okay, it's more, obviously more formed of a human being. But again, we know that there's some signs of life at 4 weeks, which is, like I said, when people know they're pregnant. So, again, that's just bizarre, for me, this is just a sidebar in my head. But, okay, so let's say this. We'll say we all think abortion is bad for the most part, right? Don't do this unless you really need to for whatever reason. Would you say? Unless it's all necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Both. Yeah. Try to do other things if you can.
Yeah, definitely try
to
take other routes.
Now let's say that. Okay, we'll just say that. Yes. I'm not trying to bait you here. Okay. Let's say, okay, so we're saying abortion's bad. What solutions can we do to better circumstances or make it more favorable to make sure that this doesn't happen? What are things that we can do as a society to improve the things we either have or do differently to discourage abortions? What would, if you're the guy in the chair and you're making the fucking rules, what would you guys say?
Better sex ed, better sex education,
okay.
Kind of like what Gage said though, there's a fucking, you can get condoms in the mall, I'm sure, you can get them out of the, 75 cents, they're everywhere, it's one of those things where it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Sure, so just awareness, contraceptives, preventative maintenance kind of deal. Yeah. Okay, yeah. What about you, Gilbert?
Yeah, I agree. on that instance that, the sex ed definitely needs to be changed in the schools because, I mean, it's just like with drugs and stuff like that, with marijuana, how they teach you, if you smoke pot once, your freaking brain's going to melt out of your head. It's just a fear tactic, and then people do it, and, they realize, hey, this isn't bad. It's the same with sex. If you're teaching them, don't ever have sex until you're married or whatever, then, how teenagers act and stuff. I mean, obviously they're rebellious. They're going to do what they want to do. And, you have to prepare for that instance instead of, just saying, well, don't have sex, and then that's it.
Okay, so for me, I would try to tackle the underlying problems with this. A lot of the underlying problems is like, I'll try to take away reasons why abortion's okay. Not like take away like on paper, but take away like with policy. And what I mean by that is, it seems to be this whole narrative that, strong, independent women, it's a great thing, but is it great for your children? I would try to pressure, like, say, families are actually good. Fathers and they're having that good. It'll make your life better. I think encouraging those kind of things, encouraging, like, things to, like the good old day kind of mentality, but, like, make that, resurrect that, not demonize men or anything like that. I would start there from, like, a societal standpoint. I'd agree with you guys with the contraceptives. I would also agree. I would try to make having the financial aspect aside. We'll figure that out, whatever. But I try to make the education less, like you were saying, anti. Don't have sex, don't do that. Make it more like, if you're gonna have sex, do A, B, and C.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I make all those resources readily available. Yeah, very, very easy to obtain. And additionally, I would try to I'll try to do more regular checks on these institutions as far as the orphanages. I would see, and then also, why don't we treat orphanages like fucking cars, dude? Why don't we have like billboards like, hey, local orphanage? Like, nobody knows where these places are. You know what I'm saying? I would make it more aware that these are where these places are, and I would check in on these people more often than what we do. So there's a few things that I would personally do. And then what I would do is, like we were saying, I think it was a good point that was brought up. Late-term abortions, maybe make those illegal. Like, say that after 8 weeks, or whatever it be, is definitely illegal. It is both the doctor's and the parents' responsibility to have it before, whatever date, that we say, or amount of time. And I think that would discourage those things too. Additionally, I would say, let's see. I don't know. I think I pretty much covered, a lot of the things, there. But again, it's hard for me to say all these things, and I would definitely want to see what the people wanted. Maybe put some of these things on paper and see, hey guys, what do you guys think, and see if it's more of a popular thing. And because I think, like we were saying before, the most part, I would say people really don't want abortions. Even people who get abortions, like we were saying before, they still have a hard time living with that afterwards, or even contemplating that. Let's discourage those things. Let's fix the other things around as to why people even get these things. And then I think if we do that, we'd be more surprised. Once you figure out all the money talk and all.
I also think that the cost of adoption needs to come down as well,
that's
because
outrageous.
it is a really expensive process.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Basically the only people that can afford adoptions are upper middle class and upper class.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are a lot of people that are lower middle class and even in the low class that want kids,
Well, I think
but either can't have them or whatever.
Okay, what were you saying, Caleb?
I don't know. I also kind of think that it should be like kind of. I think Randall, you made the point earlier, kind of how if things could kind of go back how they were like back in the day. Let's say 30, 40 years ago, to where there wasn't so much premarital sex. Let's say people are just running around sleeping with everybody. Let's say a guy goes and sleeps with some girl, doesn't want to be with her, and then's like, sorry, I don't want to have a kid, and she's sitting there like, well, I can't do this on my own,
right?
And so from there, I kind of feel like the kind of morals and standards kind of come into play. We should know right from wrong. We know we're not supposed to do this. I'm not saying that for any religious reason or anything. I just feel like
I just think it'd be better because we know the stats that more likely what leads to success in a happy life. People that come from together households, that's a fact. I forget the other two were. Damn, I'm drawing a blank. So we know that people that have both parents present in any race is generally a happier family.
Yeah.
If both your parents are around, you usually have a better life. And we gotta realize, like I said, because now it's more like independent, strong, independent, all these things. But the thing is, you look at the people that come from these independent people, they're not doing as well. I'm not saying, if we're going to talk about, if we're going to talk about who has a better chance and whatever, we gotta look at those kind of things and know that, society, some of the things that we have placed in society are always favorable for people initially too. And that's why people start, if we're going to talk about even playing fields, I think recognizing that, especially like you were saying, it's not from a religious standpoint at all. It's practically more that this is a fact that you have the stern father and he works hard, and then the caring mother. That's the default of how it's been for humanity, not just even any religion. So I agree with that. So those are some of the things. Guys, we're running on that mark here. Let's get some final thoughts. Is there anything else you guys want to say about this? Any final words? Any of you?
Well, I was going to bring up the point that I think, the main problem is the culture in the country anymore.
Yeah.
It's changed within the past, 40 and 50 years with the whole free love movement, and everything's become sexualized. You look at TV, you look at movies, you look at anything. Everybody's preaching, you can have sex with whoever you want to. There's no repercussions and everything else. And, I think that's led to, you're seeing it now with the drastic increase with, single parents, with the drastic increase in abortions and stuff like that. It's leading to negative consequences. And I think we do need to, revert back to the way it was and, have it to where you can have, a family again.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I think, really, what I got from what you said was it's okay to have sex with strangers. Just be safe about it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Overall, I think this is very productive. I think we made our points clear. Is there anything else you want to say, Caleb, at all?
No,
okay. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you having coming on. I hope you have you again, sometime. But
yeah.
We always like having guests. Thank you guys for listening to our abortion debate. Hopefully you guys took something away from that. Please leave comments on those things. I like to hear about them, especially when they're at work. That's fantastic. Anyway, until next time, this is the Justice for All podcast. I'm Randall.
I'm Caleb.
I'm Gage.
And thank you guys. Until next time. All right.